I opened my eyes and I was surrounded by 6 Thai police officers. I was handcuffed to the bed at both sides and they taped me down. All I could think of is, what have I done? They showed me the phones, they showed me pictures and videos. I had stitches from head to toe where I'd been cutting myself with glass. And I remember the officer looking at me and he said, "You go prison." I had to call my little brother, 5 years younger than me. "Can you bail me out? I'm going to prison if you don't." He sent me the money without hesitation. I went straight back to drinking. So that's where this is starting. But I want to tell you something about that night because it didn't just come out of nowhere. I was seeing this Thai girl and I was crazy about her. And I was also, if I'm being honest, completely terrified of losing her because everyone who I'd ever been close to had left. That's all I knew. Love, and then it's gone. So I went through her phone. I was looking for the thing I already believed, that I wasn't enough, that she was going to leave. And I found what I was looking for. She was talking to another guy. And something inside me just snapped because it wasn't just her. In that moment, it was every single person who had ever left me. My dad, my mum, everyone. It just came back at once. So I went out that night and I had a plan to just get effed up. But to understand why that moment hit the way it did, I need to take you back to my childhood. I grew up in Liverpool, and for the first years of my life, it was perfect. We had a big house, we had 2 cars, holidays, family meals around the table. I had everything. And I always remember the day it all changed. My dad asked me to go to the shop with him. I wanted some flipper dippers, little penguin chocolate things, limited edition. I was absolutely buzzing. And halfway through the walk, he turned around and said, "I've got something to tell you. I'm not actually your biological father." I just said, "It's okay." Sat there eating me flipper dippers. He said, "I'll always love you the same as I love your brother." And I smiled. I said, "That's okay." We got home and things just didn't feel the same. Mum and dad started arguing, they divorced, and then overnight we lost everything. The house, the cars, the holidays, all gone. And then it started. My mum had her own terrible childhood. She started bringing men back. I'd wake up every single morning to doors slamming. And by the time I'd heard it, I already knew what was happening. Alcohol and coke binges, screaming, things getting thrown, knives getting pulled out. I used to get so much adrenaline that I'd physically be sick. And when it finally stopped and I could go to sleep, it was time to get up for school. So I'd get myself up, I'd get my little brother up, I'd walk him in, and I would just be exhausted every single day. And then one night, the man she was with pushed her through a window. Glass went into her lung, emergency operation. She went into intensive care. Social services picked us up and we were taken into foster care. About a week in foster care, my dad came. He packed my little brother's bags and he told me I was staying in the care home because he had a cat in the new house. I always remember what he said at the shop: "I'll always love you the same." And then I just stood there and thought, I've got nobody now. It's just me. I've only got me. And I decided in that moment, without knowing, I was going to become the person who everyone needed me to be, because being myself clearly wasn't enough to be chosen. That was the conclusion, and it ran in the background of everything I did for the next 20 years. In care, you learn to read rooms fast. You figure out what adults need from you and you give it to them. What the other kids need, give it to them. Stay useful, stay likable, and you might be able to just stay there for a long time. And I always remember getting told off for eating too much food. She said, "We don't get paid enough for you to eat so much." I was just a commodity to her. And when I left care, I had nothing. They kicked me out for a brother and sister because they got paid double to have 2 people there. And for a long time, I slept in a room without any windows. It was like a little Harry Potter cupboard. I got a job doing door-to-door sales, selling loft insulation, commission only. You either sell or you don't eat. And I was good at that. The mask came in very, very useful. Then I started dealing, allegedly, and then I got into recruitment. I lied about having a degree, and I won an award, New Recruiter of the Year in one of the biggest companies in the world, all while waking up, sniffing drugs, going to the gym, sniffing drugs, going to sleep, smoking drugs, spending everything I made on drugs. And then I got asked to go on a TV show, a big, massive TV show, The Circle. I came off that show and overnight, I had 60,000 followers. Everyone stopped me for photos, people knowing my name, and all I could think of was finally somebody wants me. And then the attention faded. 5 minutes of fame was over. And I wasn't ready for that because to me, it felt like I was being abandoned again. My ego would not let me go back to work. So I started selling content online. I was making a lot of money and I was spending every penny on drugs, paying for hotel rooms, going on benders, putting up photos of nice restaurants like my life was amazing. But I was going to bed absolutely hating my life. Almost 30 years old, living with my mum, ready to just give up on life. I'm not going to skirt around this part. I was driving around with a knife looking for the man who destroyed my family. I wanted to take him with me. That's where I was. And then I was watching videos of Thailand on my phone. And I just thought, if I don't do something, I'm going to either be dead, in prison, or homeless. That's the three options you have when you grow up like I did. So I borrowed money from my mum. I bought a one-way ticket to Thailand. And I thought a new country would change things. I might as well have just packed all my trauma in those suitcases. And that's how I ended up on that night in Bangkok, going through a girl's phone, finding what I needed to find, the confirmation that I wasn't enough, and going out to destroy myself. Which brings me back to the hospital bed. 6 police officers, my brother bailing me out. I went to Australia after that, chasing another girl. The second night I was there, I smashed up the whole house. I got arrested again. I've been arrested in almost every country I've ever been to. When that relationship ended, something in me shifted. I realized I can't keep doing this. I can't keep losing myself in other people and waking up with nothing left. I moved back to Thailand. I tried therapy. I tried sound healing, chakra cleanses, the retreats. Nothing spoke to me. And then I found a book by a guy called Vex King. And in the first chapter, he's talking about being in women's shelters with his mum. Blood and glass everywhere, the same world I came from. I read it and I thought, finally, someone I can relate to. And then one night in Koh Samui, I was high alone, high off everything you can imagine, every drug. I'm not going to say them on this platform, but hard drugs. I was filming myself and something happened. I don't know what to call it. I don't know if people call it God or the universe. I do not have a word for it, but something came over me, an epiphany, and I just knew. This is it. After this, I'm done. The 21st of November 2023 was the day I got sober. And that's when the real work started, because getting sober does not fix anything by itself. It just makes everything go quiet. And when it went quiet, I had to actually sit with all of it for the first time. The kid in the care home getting told off for eating too much food. The kid standing there watching his brother get picked up and taken away. The kid whose mum didn't come and get him from care because she was going through her own troubles. Me getting left because of a cat. It was all still in there. I was running everything. Why I went through the girl's phone, why Bangkok happened, why I kept smashing up houses and chasing people who I thought were going to leave me. It was all the same thing, the same moment, the same conclusion that a kid made in a foster home. I'm not enough for someone to choose me. And once I understood that, I really understood it, and I started to feel what that kid felt, and I stopped running from it. Everything started to change. I run a successful coaching business now. I help people all over the world. And I want to say something to you directly. My version was loud. It was chaotic. It was carnage. It was very visible, very hard to hide. Yours might be a good job and a full schedule and a life that looks completely fine from the outside. But if any of this story landed for you, there's probably something in you too. Some version of the same thing, a moment, a conclusion, a wound, a belief, and it's been running quietly in the background of everything you've done ever since. It can change. I'm proof of that. And believe me, I know what it takes to leave survival mode. I've lived the deepest, darkest version of this, and I help people out of survival mode every single day. So if you feel called to, use the link below to book a call. And thank you for spending time with me and watching this video.